Play ball indeed. I know you have lots of places you could be on this Thursday evening, including watching opening day. Or maybe some of you are watching opening day while you're watching this too. It's all good, however you choose to celebrate opening evening. Our two guests this evening are from Cuesta College, which is in Central California, San Luis Obispo, California, to be specific. And John Knutson runs one of the most wonderful fall vocal jazz festivals in the whole country. He gets tons of choirs from both Northern California and Southern California to a beautiful venue. He's had the New York Voices, Real Group, you name it. They've been there. And the reason that we have him here today is because they put on a virtual faculty concert this spring and had some really, really great success incorporating the community in the event. And so I've invited him here to talk about this. And also I have Joan Hurwit here, who is well, she can say her title better, I think the supervisor of the performing arts.
Yeah, I'm the cultural and performing arts supervisor, but not in bureaucratic school terms. I'm basically like the managing director of the theater.
So I think it's really cool that we have a faculty member here, the department chair, who was part of the concert, but then also the managing. So we can talk a lot, not just about how to execute a live concert, which is the topic for tonight, a virtual concert, but also building an audience and promoting it. So please welcome John Knutson and Joan Hurwit.
Hi,
Joan,
everyone.
if it's okay with you, I'll go first just to break that gender stereotype of ladies first.
By all
Um,
means.
and also, you'll all be relieved to know that I have very little to say. This whole thing was really run by Joan and really assembled and put together and engineered quite well by our one of our recording arts guys named Dave Becker. I would say that the plan that we did at Cuesta really requires that you have somebody in your theater or in your division or a parent or a head of a PTA or somebody that can kind of man the lines and do a little bit more of the work ahead of time. I have learned about a thing called Feel It Live that takes 20%. I don't know if you guys have heard of that website. Two friends of mine, Jeffrey Benson up at San Jose State and Scott Glysson here in San Luis Obispo at Cal Poly. They used Feel It Live and they really enjoyed it. They said it worked well. And once they had all their edited video material in one big chunk, like an hour and a half or 2 hour spliced together thing that they created on their video software, they said Feel It Live really handled things really well and they really raved about it. And Feel It Live is kind of like Ticketmaster or Vendini, which is what we use. And it's sort of its own streaming service like a Facebook Live. And it's
John,
also, and it's
John, can
all
you spell that for us?
Feel It Live.
Oh, feel it.
Feel It Live. Yeah, just all the words elided together. Yeah. Um,
Understood.
so yeah, it's sort of like it's the ticketing software and it's the streaming service, and then they have Zoom embedded into their website. So if you're doing an after party backstage pass thing, it has the Zoom embedded. It seemed to work. I know a couple of friends locally that had a hard time dealing with the Zoom thing at the end. I didn't try to do it. I actually watched it on my phone and it worked really well. But they take a 20% cut. And Joan, since we have somebody like Joan who has a position to run our CPAC and do our publicity and stuff, we were able to do it for free, pretty much on YouTube. YouTube Premiere is the part of YouTube that we used. And with that, I'll pass it on to Joan Hurwit, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joan. I moved to San Luis Obispo 3 years ago for this job at the theater. And what was wild to me was before I got there, there was no one doing my job. There was a coordinator who tried to help facilitate scheduling of events and all of the concerts that were happening by the performing arts program. But when I came in, it was much it was split between the program and department needs, as well as reaching out to the community and booking the theater that way. So that said, it's just me. It's just me, and I've got a technical director and a technical coordinator that work with me. But really, I do all of the publicity and marketing and social media. I do all of the maintenance and upgrades for all of our technical equipment and all of the bookings. So our internal scheduling as well as our external scheduling. So transitioning to the virtual landscape, was very new for us. It was something that we had never done before. So what I did was I kind of broke down the timeline in which we did this work so that you have some idea of what we were able to do with the time that we had. I kind of pitched this amongst many other ideas on a meeting at a meeting April 28th. We sent the specific requirements to our faculty. So we weren't working with students on this project. We had previously done a jazz quarantunes concert with Ron's jazz ensembles and combos as the end of the spring semester as their like final project. And that was fun. I learned a lot from that experience that kind of really helped inform this next experience. But we were just specifically working with faculty and part-time faculty on this project. So we kind of sent them, and by we I mean our main editor and recording arts guy, the specific guidelines on what we needed, how we needed them to record, and how we needed them to submit this work. They had a month to do that. So all of those performances were due June 1st. And then we launched ticket sales and sent out information to our audiences on June 22nd, followed up with one more email on July 1st, and the show was July 2nd. So it was a great experience for the most part. Kind of like John said, it was either, the options were either to pay someone or for a company to take that cut, that 20% cut, to do all of that work, or have me do all of that. So we kind of opt for that because this was a fundraiser. Our programs received no budget. The only budget that our programs have is based on ticket sales. So as I'm sure a lot of you can relate, when we had to cancel our events, it really significantly impacted the programs. So we did this as a fundraiser for the programs and for the CPAC itself. And it was great. What actually ended up happening, to my surprise, was that we sold more tickets than we average at a regular regular faculty concert. So the way Cuesta operates is, we're on a semester system. And at the beginning of every semester, faculty get together and do a fundraiser for student scholarships. And this is widely attended because our faculty are really great educators, but they're also such incredible musicians the community really loves and gets behind. So we got great attendance at those concerts, and we sold more for our virtual concert than we do on average for our regular concerts. Thank you for the applause on mute there. That said, we did cut our ticket sales, our ticket prices in half because this was our first time offering the concert in this way. We weren't entirely sure how it was going to go. We really just crossed our fingers and thought, it's worth $10. So for the Quarantunes jazz concert that I previously mentioned with students, that was a donation-based ticket. People could donate any amount that they wanted and receive a link that I manually sent out every single time someone donated, because we really weren't sure how that was going to go. This we hosted on Vendini, which is our regular ticketing site. We offered general admission price tickets at $10. We offered student tickets at $5. We offered a backstage pass to an after party in a Zoom room that was also $10. So if people wanted to participate and see our faculty face-to-face in real time, they could do that, which was a great way for people to support. And before checkout, they had the opportunity to tack on an additional donation. So the additional donations totaled $245, and that was both donations in advance of the concert and also during the concert. And one of my favorite parts of hosting it on YouTube, and it wasn't YouTube Premiere, I just want to make that correction real quick, or it was a YouTube Premiere, but it was not YouTube Premium. There's like an extra special YouTube Premium. We don't have that. We just did I created a Gmail account for the CPAC, created a YouTube channel, started uploading videos, and that's what we hosted it on. We uploaded it a day or two before the concert date, which was good because the Quarantunes concert really cut it close, and this concert, it was really great because we noticed that we had missed a certain, I think it was either the intro or the outro, which really was just me, and was probably the only reason I noticed that it was missing. But we scheduled the premiere of the concert, which I can elaborate on later, absolutely. And then I emailed people who purchased tickets that specific link that same day. So they didn't really have an opportunity to like share the link around if they were tempted to. But at the same time, it was me sitting at the computer from 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., which to me was totally worth it, but I can see why you might not want to do that or might not have someone that can do that. So it's technically still on our YouTube channel, but it's unlisted. So it's unsearchable without the link, which we can share with you and you can check out at some point for sure. But that way tickets are still technically available online. So I still see if people who wanted to check it out, who missed that, you know, that evening, people have, I think at least 5 people have like purchased tickets after the event and enjoyed it at a later time. But now that they have the link, they can go back and watch the show. They can repeat their favorite parts of the concert, which is super fun. Or at least I've been told people have enjoyed that. I'm talking really quickly and I'm seeing these things pop up in the chat here. So let me open this real quick and just, yes. So the virtual backstage pass was like a fun VIP way of us saying, hey, we're gonna hang out and we'd love for you to join us. We did make it affordable so that, you know, it was just an extra $10. And it got a great, it wasn't too many people to handle over Zoom. I think it was like 2 full screens and that was like super doable. The people who additionally, I mean, Vendini makes it really easy when you export ticket sales to be able to then just lump in one group who purchased this extra backstage pass. So for those people, I sent, and everyone got personal emails. I mean, they, you know, it was like, hey there, but it was like a direct email to them, or at least to their email address. It wasn't through Vendini and it wasn't through MailChimp, which we do use. So yes, so they were sent an additional backstage pass link to the Zoom room. Something that I did send out in advance of the concert itself was a virtual faculty concert viewing guide. Because, and I don't know about you, but our demographic skews older, and I wanted to make sure that our audience members would be able to access the concert that we were preparing for them in a way that was like easy and stress-free. And yeah, I think, John, what was one thing you had mentioned about it was that it was like, it didn't like talk down, it was just, it gave them all the options. So yeah, it was just like 2 pages of choose your device and here's how you can stream, and here are great resources that I would link out. They could like follow those instructions, and here's how you access the concert. I gave them the option to schedule the reminder on YouTube. When you post a, when you schedule a video to premiere on YouTube, you can like set reminder. There's every week I have like a new Shakespeare play that I have a set reminder on, which is like really great because they get an email and they get a notification. I invite them to subscribe to our channel, which we're like very slowly building. And here's how to watch in best quality, because I think a lot of those folks were like, oh, I had no idea you could even, you know, adjust that or fix that setting. And then I said you can pledge your support. Here's where you can make additional donations, and it's not too late to get a backstage pass, because I was, like I said, at the computer throughout the concert, being able to send that link to anyone that decided halfway through, okay, I would really like to see John's face and hear from him. And then I also included in here a land acknowledgement, which we didn't include in video form, but we did include in written form. And I'm happy to answer any questions on what that means. For folks who don't know, I actually just got out of another meeting about that too, which was really great. And then all of our social media links at the bottom. So they would have sign up for the newsletter, bookmark our events website, Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz.
Joan, would you say that it's fair to say that the primary purpose of the document was to make folks feel comfortable just technically and just understanding the flow? So you had a lot of specifics in there, but just kind of generally like, hey, this is what to expect because this is brand new. Is that a fair assessment?
At this point, we weren't sure how many of our audience had streamed events before or had experience with YouTube or live events. It's not really like, live performance, but specific premiere time. So it was to make sure that they felt comfortable, that all the bases were covered, and I said at the email too, if you have any questions, please email me directly. I'm happy to answer anything. Luckily, our audience is very engaged, and they do email me every time they have questions. So I was just trying to preempt all of those questions and put it in one single document, send that PDF and say, I got your back. Here you go. If there's anything else, please do let me know. And what was great about YouTube and doing it on YouTube versus another platform, and I'm sure you can probably do this on other platforms like the one that John mentioned, but this way we kind of had control over it, was, okay, here we are in our chat on YouTube. There's like the comment section and then like the chat box. Who wants to be our first virtual tip donor or virtual tip jar? That's what we called it. And then that person got a shout out, and and they also include like a little comment when they donate. So I got to share that. And so people were like, oh, I'm going to be the next person to donate to the tip jar. So it was a really fun way of accruing even just small additional donations throughout the project. And it was a very active chat, which was like, oh my God, that was so great. Oh my God, did you hear that note? And I could tell there were folks of all ages in that group, which was very fun.
The chat reminded me of like people whispering at a concert, like talking.
Totally.
You're gonna do it, but you don't have to whisper.
Yeah, exactly. Up against the wall, like, oh, that was great.
And you know what? That's maybe one thing we could do, or all of us, if we do this method, is to really encourage people. And again, I don't think your email pointed out how to use the chat, Joan, or maybe it did, but because I don't think it'd be cool if like everybody knew about it and were encouraged. And if they were brand new at YouTube, it didn't even have a YouTube account. Are they allowed to do chat? Maybe not, right?
Yeah, we had a section on that thing, and I wonder if I sent you the most. I'm trying to find it here, but there was a engage with us option. I might have sent a different file. I did one with and one without the it's not too late to sign up for the after party, but I did give the option of engage with us, in real time. You can have a conversation with us in the chat box. So they were at least aware of that possibility. Some people were just streaming it on their TVs and probably not in there, but right now the videos had over 500 views total. At this point I think it's probably more, but there were at least 150 people watching in real time. And the biggest question I got beforehand was, if I can't attend, will the link still work at a later time? And that was like what was so great about being able to offer a virtual concert, was like, yes, once you have this link, you can enjoy it at any time and then rewatch whatever parts you want.
Really we had a couple questions in the chat box here that I just wanted to address. Did you have any facilities fees or to any rental stuff? It seems silly, but
no. And it's interesting because I'm technically a facilities supervisor. I work for the facilities department on campus, and I work very closely with performing arts. I got my master's in theater, so I'm an arts kid through and through. But I can speak both languages, and there was nothing to do with the actual facility itself. All of the faculty recorded either at-home performances or in the classrooms on campus. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I do remember one very top secret performance that was recorded on the stage, which was a surprise for me. But no, we didn't have to deal with any facility fees or rules. I did loop in our fiscal department, and I emailed her and said, just to let you know, we're going to see a different type of thing, and also we're splitting it between all of these different programs. So I gave her a heads up of how we were dispersing any revenue. But no specific policies or rules we had to follow.
Very cool. Somebody also asked, basically, what are the advantages of YouTube Premiere? Did you run into any real pluses of going with that option?
For YouTube Premiere, I mean, honestly, we don't have anything to compare it to because this is our first time doing it. But for us, it was just really great to have control over it and control over it after the fact. And it was a platform that I think we were all familiar with. So I created the page and then gave the credentials to our recording arts guy to be able to upload it from there. But I don't really have anything to compare it to, but we seem to enjoy it.
I mean, YouTube Premiere instead of YouTube, because YouTube Premiere sets it, you can set the time and start date, so you can make it a
you just schedule it.
Building event. You can have everybody watch it together.
And honestly, and this is so probably trivial, but like a really fun element of YouTube Premiere was that at 7:30 we were all at our computers like ready for the show to start, and then instead of the show starting, a countdown starts, and then YouTube just like inserts this like 2-minute countdown timer where you're just like, oh my god, this is so exciting, oh my god, we're all here. So it sounds so silly, but it really actually did build the intensity and the excitement.
It was kind of like 1970s drive-in music and graphics before you watch the movie.
The graphics were retro for sure, but the music was really exciting and very fun. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for that, it was like kind of great.
We've got some good questions on here too, just talking about, Facebook versus YouTube and the choice of where to broadcast. Do either of you want to address that a little bit? I know a couple people, like somebody put in the chat here that Facebook Premiere seems to compress the video and audio more than YouTube. I think the question is, were you happy with the sound quality? I think that, that's one thing we could talk about. But if you could talk about Facebook versus YouTube and why you made that choice, that would be helpful.
I think that was one of our main reasons for going with YouTube, was that we could ensure that the quality would be the best. Before, let's see, it went to George before it went to Dave, right, John? So
yeah, all the faculty sent their audio to our recording engineer lead, who kind of mastered it. I mean, I don't think it had to go to this amazing level, but he mastered and leveled out all the volumes and added a little sheen for broadcast, and then it went to the video guy.
So we were able to maintain the quality. And if you did listen with like great headphones or, were viewing at home on like great speakers, it was a stellar concert. Like I specifically didn't watch a lot of the performances in full before the full concert. And I was honestly totally blown away, which says a lot, because I don't know if a lot of you are experiencing this right now, but streaming fatigue or like online viewing fatigue is like super real right now. People are kind of maxing out on how long they're able to sit and watch something, or if they want to pay for something, which might be a decent segue into sharing an additional resource with you. So in San Luis Obispo,
Joan, I'm really sorry to talk over you for a second.
Sure.
Our guy from Cal Poly has to dive out in about 5 minutes, and we talked about Facebook Live and we talked about YouTube. He could talk for a couple of minutes about his experience with Feel It Live, if you guys want to have that.
Here? Yeah, for sure. Jump in.
Scott's in here. Scott Glysson, everybody's from Cal Poly.
Good. Before we do that, John, we want to also be looking at the clock and realizing that it's the bottom of the hour. So we're going to take this minute just to say, again, thank you for being here. Cheers and bottoms up, everyone.
Cheers.
This is so fun.
And you can show this video to your students and see if they know any of these wonderful people on the screen. By the way, thanks to Michelle Mayo. Shout out to Michelle for sending me these photos just so we could kind of switch up the bottoms up logo for this time. So great. Go ahead, John.
Cool. Thanks. Hey, Scott, you want to say hi?
Hi. So, hi everyone. Yeah, John like texted me earlier and see if I could, and like, everybody else, like what am I doing right now, you know? So good to see all of you. I see some of you that I know, but I'm not a vocal jazz guy. I'm the director of choral activities at Cal Poly. So, I just wanted to tell you a little bit, I guess, about Feel It Live. I'm not being paid by them, so I'll tell you the truth and all that. My friend Jeffrey Benson at San Jose State also used them. Basically, pretty much everything that Joan was saying that YouTube Premiere, right, does pretty much is what Feel It Live does, right down to the countdown thing that you were talking about. All that stuff happens. It's kind of like if you took Zoom, Ticketmaster, and Facebook Live and like combined them into one service. That's kind of what like Feel It Live is. You have to put all of your materials into one large video. We did that by doing like virtual choirs, which we also have Dave Becker. He's like the guy in the Central Coast that's doing all these things. So we had put them all those together. I actually stood out in front of our performing arts center and introduced a lot of the videos, so it looked like I was standing out there live when in fact I was, I'd recorded that a couple days ago, but that was kind of cool. So we kind of put together this whole video, and you send it to them, they upload it, they manage everything. You have to have a bank account or a credit card in order for them to kick the money back to you. Once that's done, they also have a donate button that is really prominent. It's right there in the middle as people are watching it. We too, you know, ended up making actually a little bit more money than we normally do on concerts, even though we only charge $5 a ticket. But that's simply because we had no fees, basically, really, other in terms of renting the space or anything like that. The backstage pass option is also a thing that they do with them. They use Zoom. So what happens is you can set your ticket prices at whatever you want. So we charge $5 for a ticket and $10 for a backstage pass. So it was $10 total if you wanted a backstage pass. So you watch the concert, and then after the concert is over, everybody who's paid that $10 can click this button that appears in the middle of the screen. It says join backstage pass, and then it kicks you into a Zoom meeting, and at that point you pretty much host it. So I think it's kind of like what Joan was saying that that John and the faculty did at Cuesta. You can do all of that stuff like Joan did. It's really not anything that's like revolutionary, that's totally different. It's just that they handle all of that for you. I will say that their customer service is really, really good, to the point that they were calling people on the phone whenever there was stuff that was going on. There's a couple quirky things, like you couldn't use Safari for certain things. It wouldn't work. And like you probably discovered, John and Joan, folks are not real great about reading directions on emails when they get them. I don't really blame them, because we get so much electronic, like I'm going to a concert, why do I want to read this long instruction list from an email thing? But one of those things on there was please use Chrome, right? And how many people actually followed that? So I would just say a word of advice for any of you doing any sort of live concert: encourage people to purchase tickets early, like, because it's kind of ingrained in our psyche that we can purchase a ticket super early, or we can show up at the door and buy a ticket. And while that's true, if there's any technical issues that crop up, which they are going to and did, there's like no time to fix it if they're doing that at the last minute. So if I do this again, which I will, I'll make sure to really push to people early, like please buy your tickets early, make sure that it's working, make sure that you're set up, that type of stuff. Yeah. So I think that's like pretty much my experience with it. I was happy with it. They do take a 20% cut, although if you use them frequently, they're willing to negotiate that. So we pay a little less than 20 because we're going to use them again. Yeah. So
How
that's
long was the concert, Scott? That's really super helpful. How long was your concert?
Yeah, so you know what? All of the videos and such that we ended up doing amounted to our concert being like, I want to say about 75 minutes. It was about an hour and 15 minutes. Um, and it was basically like we did some of those virtual choirs, which you guys probably know like are just hours and hours and hours of music to prepare. So we also filled it with some like other things. I have a chamber choir that just kind of did like a fun montage, like via sort of 80s type thing, which was really funny and easy to put together, but it was kind of fun. We did like a senior recognition where they put together. I utilized students a lot. I had students are like way better at putting videos together than me, so I had them really like I had this one guy put together the senior video and this other person, so like a whole bunch of that. And I had another guy put the whole video together. So I don't know. That was really, I think, successful for us. So yeah.
I watched the Cal Poly concert with Scott Glysson, and it was fabulous. It was entertaining and heart wrenching, and he did do clever things using previously recorded things to fill up the time, but he put cool like current videos on top of them and stuff. And yeah, bravo, Scott.
Hey, yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, John.
Really appreciate you being here, Scott. That's
Yeah,
awesome
I'm
to have
thankful.
that
Thanks for
input.
not making me scat anything, guys. I appreciate that.
Well, you're not done yet.
Oh,
Not till the second drink. That's when we start that.
okay, all right, cool, cool, cool.
Thanks so much. John and Joan, how long, just for perspective, how long was the concert that you all put on? I think that's a good, that was a question asked in the chat as well.
Ours was exactly 90 minutes,
Wow.
I think in 33 seconds.
And just curious, did you have access to any stats on viewership during those 90 minutes, or did you bother to look at them? Like, did you notice that more people were logged on 20 minutes in than 80 minutes in, or anything like that?
It was pretty steady throughout the entire evening, and honestly, I think that was just due to the editing and the flow of the concert. It just moved so nicely, and it was such a wide variety. It wasn't a specific style. Each of the faculty brought whatever they wanted to bring, and it was just, you never knew what you were going to get. One of the suggestions, or at least, like I mentioned, our patrons like to email me, and one of the ideas was to create a program like you would normally get when you go to a theater, to create a program that they could follow along, so that, on the YouTubes, on like the bar, like you don't want to go back because then you're not watching in real time with everyone else anymore. But if you forgot the name of the song and you're like, what is the song, or what's the language that this is being sung in, and you want to know, a program would have been helpful. So if and when we do this again, that will be something that we'll be incorporating and sharing along with that ticket link, as well as the viewing guide.
That's amazing. Wow, this is super helpful. And I mean, this is helping me personally, like, get over a little bit of an obstacle. Like, okay, all this stuff we're trying to just prepare for our students, but we do have to prepare this side of things too, and continue to connect with our community and our audience. That's wonderful. Joan, I want to have you talk about the other two organizations that you mentioned in your email when we were planning this session. You can talk about the women in ticketing thing, but definitely I want to make sure you get to the San Luis Obispo Arts Leadership Roundtable and that survey that they did. So if you would go down that road, I'd appreciate it.
For sure. So there is a Facebook group that I honestly just stumbled upon like 2 months ago, called Women in Ticketing. So if you are a woman in ticketing, I highly suggest joining this group. And if you are not a woman in ticketing, you can probably find a woman in ticketing who can join this group. And I say that because it's like a private group, but it's a really incredible resource. And so many folks are sharing issues they've had with certain companies, how they're dealing with fees and policies, what steps they're next taking for this upcoming semester or school year, if it may extend beyond the semester. So it's been an incredible resource. I haven't personally posted a question in the group, but every time I have a question, I go to that search bar, and there has been already, threads and threads of information available. So that is really great. And if you don't have access to that group for whatever reason and have a question and would like me to submit it to that group, I am happy to do so. So just let me know. what is, I feel like there was
Something else with that group?
yeah, I was trying to think of what else with that group, but it'll probably come to me later.
Well, why don't you talk about the audience perception survey that was done, and if that comes back to you, we can certainly loop back around to that. But I just think that's helpful to, to be aware. There's a Facebook group for everything, apparently. I mean,
Who knew? I
that's
think
amazing.
I found that in like the Women Plus in Theater group, and it was like, oh,
Right.
are you not in the ticketing group? Oh, join that. And it's been a great resource. So the other group Matt mentioned, that I had mentioned earlier, was a group that basically, I mean, probably similar to this in theme, is a group of arts administrators that would get together once every few months and have a drink at a local bar. And it's great. San Luis Obispo is just small enough of a city to be able to do that with just about everyone in the arts scene. When we got our shelter at home orders here in California, we turned online, and it kind of turned into a collective coalition of sorts. And right now we're figuring out our branding. We're realizing now more work that we do, we're going to have to really brand ourselves and come up with a real name. But right now we are currently known as the SLO Arts Leadership Roundtable. And it really came together so that we could survey our audiences on their experience with live performance venues, when they're going to feel comfortable coming back to a live performance, and what is going to make them most comfortable. We have sent out now 2 iterations of our survey, and the first time I think it was probably 3,200 people responded, and just now we've closed the second iteration, and that's over 3,500 folks have responded to the survey. And that is kind of a combination of Cal Poly audiences, Cuesta audiences. Up here we have the Clark Center, we have all of our rock and roll venues as well. And so I was going to share with you some statistics from what kind of the general feedback is and what the trends are. Right now, as far as live performance events go, obviously, it really depends on regulations of city and state, but we're trying to understand, like, if allowed, when is the soonest you would return to a live performance venue? And now it has jumped up to 40% of people want to wait until there is a vaccine. The options on that question we offered were September through February, those specific months, wait until a vaccine, and then other. And the most selected answer was waiting until a vaccine, and that jumped, I think, from like 35 to 40% on this most recent iteration. Also, from 17% to now 26% of people are not confident in engaging in activities with other people. So we're starting to see a trend of people being more cautious than they were 6 weeks ago, is the last time we sent this out. The predominant age of people who responded to this survey, and I don't know if this is, if you see the same trends at your theaters or schools, is the 55 to 64, and then 65 plus ages. We're seeing that people are finding it more important. The trends have gone up for wearing masks and gloves, for sanitizing spaces. That jumped up to 60%. Knowing cleaning procedures of the space that they're entering, and limiting audience size, that was a 20% increase this survey. They want to see social distancing as well as getting temperature checks, and that was a 15% increase from the last survey. So we said, one of the final questions was, even if everything that you answered for important to very important on these most recent questions. If all of those things were addressed, if we were able to accommodate all of those things, would you still feel confident coming to the theater and enjoying a live performance? And that was down by 30%. So even if we take all of these necessary precautions, when it is legal for us to be able to start conducting live events again, we're still going to see a significant decrease in attendance. So it has really sparked conversation amongst the Cuesta faculty and myself as far as, what does this look like? How long are we going to have to invest in virtual programming? We have really I've come together with all of the other arts organizations in SLO to say, okay, who's exploring live broadcasting? Who's, dipping into, people are getting very creative. Our theater arts department have canceled their productions, and instead they're hosting a podcast writing class where, it's going to be very similar to probably a playwriting class, but they're also going to be acting and producing the podcast. So I think a lot of creative things will come out of this. But I think it's also going to be really important for us to feel successful in the ways we do choose to move forward and share our art.
But it's really good information, especially the audience survey that you were talking about, because and I'm sure that survey would have different results in different counties, different parts of the countries, obviously. But I think just to hear that information and realize, like that last point you said, even if all these things were put into place, you would still have some hesitation about doing this. So I think it's like everything else that we've been talking about this summer in these happy hours, is that we have to be creative, and I'm sure this took a lot of work as well to put together, and a lot of extra effort, but mostly just a different kind of effort where you would have put your energy doing one thing, moving our efforts into another area. So, well, that's really, really wonderful. Cool. John, anything else you want to add?
No, I did put the link to our faculty concert in the chat if anybody wants. It's and I acknowledge there, I think most of us are not interested in putting on a faculty concert. This is informational about how we can do our student concerts, but it's the exact same challenges and stuff. But since we talk so damn much about this concert, if you're curious, it's there.
And can we post the link to that in the Vocal Jazz Academy
Yeah,
Facebook group as
absolutely.
well? Do you mind? Okay.
Nope. Mhm.
Great. We'd like to put that in there. So we've got a couple questions in here. Michelle from Florida asks, is the plan to stream live even when the theater is back open and sell tickets both live and in person? Have you had any thoughts about that?
So the group that I'm in, this roundtable group, has gone back and forth on that question, because if you want to do it well, then you really have to invest in the equipment to do so. And we have talked about whether or not we have some or all of that equipment already. But God, technology just develops and changes so rapidly that even if we did have the right equipment and we bought it 2 years ago, it's already outdated. And if we buy it right now, it'll be outdated next year. So we would have to weigh the pros and cons of is it worth the investment. There are groups in SLO who are probably closer to doing that than we are, but we'll have to see.
Space. I will say I was watching this a live stream back and forth about Feel It Live that was recorded a few months ago with Scott Glysson and Jeffrey Benson, and they were talking about filling up a concert with, like I said, previously recorded things and some kind of like appropriate art or student interactions and creativities go with it. Also, some soloists and duets that could be done with Band in a Box or Abershald, things like that to fill it up. It does seem like humor is so important and so like well received in this time and era too. So, and I know students are clowns, and they are one of our best resources for humor.
So it could really take a different form than a normal concert. Would you agree with that? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if you want to watch Scott Glisson's one, I mean, it's in R2. There's a lot of like humor that you would never be able to pull off, including like the at the end doing all the outtakes. We
oh my
put together a
gosh.
blooper reel at the end, which is hilarious. Like a guy playing his saxophone video while chickens are clucking by, and all that kind of fun stuff. I mean, it's pretty funny.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Would you all join me in thanking John Knutson from Cuesta College and Joan Hurwit from Cuesta College as well? Thanks so much for being here, you two, and talking about this. I know you kind of thought, oh, this will be like 20 minutes, but there's so much to delve into and kind of pushing us into different areas. So we're just really thankful that you could come and talk about this and help us get things going with that. And we know, I know you all use Vendini there for your ticketing. We use Vendini at our college, certainly, but there's quite a few other programs that can be used as well for this. So even if you don't specifically use Vendini, I think there's other types of options out there. And I know some other directors have been going down more kind of like the online ticketing route, like using an Eventbrite or something. I think Christine Mocha, had done an Eventbrite. A couple of directors had been Eventbrite. Can you talk about that a little bit? Is that something that is a viable option for this? Brown paper tickets, that kind of stuff?
So I know that Brown Paper Tickets and Eventbrite were caught up in some disputes recently about organizations having to cancel events and refunding fees, holding on to fees that companies were asking back. So that has been a bit of an interesting development in the ticketing world, but yeah, I don't know where they are right now as far as virtual tickets go.
Right. And we've got one of our directors in here saying we have not received refunds yet from Brown Paper Tickets. So yeah, that's where we're getting that. We're dealing with that too. So something to be careful about, I guess. Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks again, John and Joan. That's really, really wonderful. I'm going to take the last few minutes of our session here just to talk about actually how we're going to wrap up the summer here and transition into school year mode at the Vocal Jazz Academy. So our leadership team, which is me and my wife, our wonderful administrative ninja, Jessica, and of course, Ian Brecky and Christine Guter, have been planning through, and we're realizing, just like you, we need to really start thinking about what we're actually going to do with our own programs. We have a really exciting session coming up next week, and then we are going to do one more set of regional breakouts. So I'll actually show this to you really quick. Let me share my screen. There we go. And so we're going to wrap up the summer next week. I'm really, really excited that we have 3 educators from 3 different states that are going to do a presentation for us. Amy Stewart, who's here in the call with us, Wendy Jones, Eden Castile, and you see on the screen from Texas, North Carolina, and Rhode Island. Amy, are you there? Can you give us a little 30-second plug on what you guys are thinking of doing next week?
Yeah, I'm here. We're going to do a little presentation on the work that we've done around SoundJack, which allows you to make music in real time. It works best when you're not spread across the United States, if you're in the same town, and even better if you're on the same LAN network, like if you're all on campus in different rooms. But even being spread out as far as we were, we've been able to make music together. So we're going to put together a little presentation about how you can do that too. It takes some bravery in terms of technological know-how, and you're going to get digging around in your computer to make it work, but it does, and it's really exciting. It means that we can make music together even if we're not in the same room.
Wow, Amy, thank you. Yeah, we're excited. We're crossing our fingers that we can actually get a little bit of a live demo, of that. But I know you've posted a couple of videos on YouTube already showing some of the process. So we'll post those links online so that you guys can start to check that out and see what's happening. But singing in sync and jamming online or jamming in time or something, I don't know. We're still working on the title, but it'll be kind of fun to do that. Thank you, Amy, for talking about that. Beginning in August, we are going to transition to doing our happy hours monthly rather than weekly, and we're going to continue them through the school year on the first Thursday of the month. And I think that'll be a good way to continue to check in with everybody and get updates and continue to talk about successes and challenges as we go through the school year. So our August happy hour is going to be regional breakout sessions because I think those were super successful last time. Amy led one, and we had 4 of them last time. And my people on the East Coast were like, hey, we want one too. So we're going to get one to include our Academy Facebook group members all the way from Maine to Florida. We're going to get some folks to host that. So get ready for that in a couple of weeks. We're going to send out a mailing and some Facebook announcements, emailing and some Facebook announcements, setting up these links ahead of time. So if you have teachers in your area that are like just starting to think about this stuff that we've been talking about all summer, we really are going to try to facilitate you being able to invite them to the session so you can get some local discussion going on, and we'll continue to share through that. So that will be in a couple of weeks, Thursday, August 6th. Our final event of this summer session is going to be a webinar that's following up on the race conversations in vocal jazz discussion that we hosted a few weeks ago with educators around the United States and Canada, talking specifically about their experiences as African American educators in vocal jazz. But we're going to cast the net a lot wider than that for this session. And what we're excited about is just having the conversation of, okay, hello, we teach a style of music in our classroom that is a mixture of Western European harmony, African American rhythm. Again, I'm totally, I'm sort of really painting this with a broad brush. But I think it's important for us not only to recognize that as we teach this art form, but figuring out how to embrace and encourage diversity in the vocal jazz classroom. And so we have a student who has both studied vocal jazz with Christine Guter, with Brian Doko, with Carrie Marsh. So he's been through a number of vocal jazz programs, but he's also trained in equity and diversity. He's trained as a equal employment opportunity rep, an EEO rep. And he works for a company that does regular Zoom sessions. He just did a 200+ Zoom session with the Academy of Motion Arts, Motion Picture and Recording Arts. I know I'm getting that acronym wrong. Talking about how to address some of these concepts in here. So we're really excited to present this session. It is going to be a session that we have you pre-register for. It's going to be something that is not going to be broadcast live on Facebook because we want to get people together, vocal jazz educators, vocal jazz students, and just have some honest discussions about many of these topics. And honestly, when we all have students that walk into our classroom, and some of them come from a reading only perspective and some of them come from an ear only perspective, but sometimes there's cultural implications tied to that as well. And so we're going to integrate discussion of teaching vocal jazz, but just really dealing with the diversity in our classroom, the diversity of our students' experiences coming in. And I think Terrence Taylor is working really, really hard on customizing the presentation that he does for so many other companies, specifically for vocal jazz educators. We're going to do that workshop on Friday, August 7th, and that's going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. It's going to last for 2 hours. So we just want to get in and have a nice, focused discussion on all this stuff. It will be something we will make sure that all the participants get a certificate afterwards, because we know that this is something that could be used for professional development hours or clock hours. Certainly something you can take to an administrator and said, hey, I spent a morning or an afternoon doing this. We are going to charge a fee for it. The proceeds are not going to the Vocal Jazz Academy or to my LLC. They are going to, first and foremost, we're going to honor the work that Mr. Taylor has been putting in on all of this. And then we're going to take a large chunk of this and donate it to the Ella Fitzgerald Charitable Foundation as well. Because we know that they do such a great job. Fran Rosman and company do a great job of making sure that scholarships are available for students, and specifically low-income students, minority students. So we're excited. So we hope that our community that you've been participating in this summer will come be a part of this, so that we can learn, we can continue the discussion, but also really help out this foundation and Terrence, who's going to be presenting this. So we invite you to join that. Registration is going to open tomorrow, and that's going to be 2 weeks from Friday. So we're hoping that you will join us on that. So I think we're pretty much wrapping up for the evening on behalf of Ian and Jessica, and again, our guests, John Knutson and Joan Hurwit. Thanks so much for coming tonight. We're going to continue the discussion in our Vocal Jazz Academy Educators Support Group if you want to come hang out for a little while longer. But thanks so much.